Hi, everyone. I'm Talya Pardo. This is Soul Speak. It is my greatest pleasure to welcome today Randy Belham. He's a Jay Shetty certified life coach. I've known him for many years, and it's so wonderful to see you blossom. It's hard to say blossom when we're talking to a man, but at the same time, flourish into this stage of your life. And you've been very inspiring to me as well, because when I decided to step into the life coaching and mentoring world, I was in touch with you first, and you really gave me quite a great encouragement and push to go for it. Right. So I want to thank you for being here today. And I'm so excited to have you here to share what you do. It's a little bit of a takeoff from the previous episodes that I've done. I speak with a lot of women in the healing space, and that's all wonderful. But I think it's so important also to hear from men. The balance. I'm a very strong believer that feminine, masculine need each other to balance each other out, and that we each have gifts to contribute to each other and perspectives to share that help fill our world, enrich our world, right? So yes, women need each other, men need each other, but men and women need each other as well. So I'm really excited to have you on today. Your focus, which is also a little bit different from what I've been speaking about recently, is business coaching, life coaching in the business world. But as you say, you use meditation and mindfulness to support your business clients in their journey, and the clients who are looking to improve their business lives. So that's an interesting meld. So before we even jump into how you do that, I'd like you to please tell the audience where you started from. Like, how did you get to be and want to be a life coach, supporting others through whatever you faced in your life? What brought you here?
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for having me on the show. When you asked me, I was totally honored to do this. This is amazing, and we're connecting this way. Thank you. So thank you very much.
It's a real pleasure. I'm very excited you said yes.
So to cut it to a real, short as possible, because it is a long story. Excuse me. I've been a serial entrepreneur pretty much my whole life. As soon as I got out of McGill, I started as a stockbroker. When you're a stockbroker, financial advisor, even though you work under a name, you're still an independent contractor. So it's like running your own business. So from that point on, I always loved being in business, building businesses, and I became very successful at it. I built a successful practice as a financial advisor. I went on to open up a private school. I opened up a summer camp for kids. I've done an online diving magazine. I've had digital screens and all those advertising screens you see across the city of Montreal. Well, I started that in Montreal before it was even popular, before McDonald's even had a screen. So, all this business was always very, very strong for me. But the problem that I had, though, was that I was never fulfilled. I had the money. I had the success in the business. I was married. I had I still have two beautiful kids. But within me, there's something missing, and I didn't know what it was. So I did some therapy, but it wasn't really speaking to me the way as deep as what I would like. And I started getting involved in Buddhism and reading and meditation. So at the onset of my divorce, which I didn't take very well, I decided to pack my bags and I went to Thailand. I lived for 3 months with the monks in Thailand, meditating every day, like 3 or 4 meditation sessions with about 2 hours each. Walking meditation, Dhamma talks, eating 1 meal a day, sleeping on a bed of concrete. And many places were silent. So you're only stuck with you and your thoughts for weeks. So what it does is, in the beginning, it's very difficult, but what it does, it really opens up understanding your mind, your thoughts, how powerful those words are that we use in our mind from everything, but I learned how to do that. So to come back to I told you it was a really long story. So the short story, so I came back, I traveled for a few years, still trying, resource myself, get spiritual, meditating in really, really cool places. And then the pandemic hit. And I'm not a person that's can't sit still. And prior to the pandemic, became a globetrotter, and I had my backpack. I'd visited 35 countries. I was, and this was my life. I was, so stuck here with the pandemic. I said, what can I do next? And I've been a strong follower of Jay Shetty, and he launched his school. So I said, this may be the opportunity. So I got on an onboarding call. I spoke to them. And I made the decision right away. You know, I've come to that place when it speaks well to me inside in my head, and it's like there's no need to overthink. And I jumped on board. So that's how I became a life coach. But to be honest with you, like through my whole entrepreneur career, I've been coaching people. People have come to me with business plans. People have come to me with problems. People have been coaching them, but I never had the right tools to do so, or structure like the Jay Shetty School does.
Right. It probably gave you a bit more depth as to how to lead people in their process, and combine it with your experience in business itself. You're able to now have a real process to work with people. It's interesting that you said you went on the 3 months in the monastery. That's kind of the Jay Shetty path that he took as well, right? I mean, he did a few years,
Similar.
I think, right? So, but you experienced kind of the transcendent experiences that he experienced, which gave you that depth. And what you say about being quiet with yourself, or you can't speak, it's so interesting. That's our world. People can't even sit with themselves for 5 minutes, and can't hear
Five
themselves.
seconds.
Right? We're overloaded. I find in myself, there are days where it depends on my mood, but there are days where it's kind of, I'll get up and I'm like, okay, I need to put a podcast on. Even if I'm not intensely listening to it, I just need something kind of going.
Right.
And yet those are the days that I've learned to start being aware of, like, okay, so why are you seeking that distraction, right? That's actually when I need the quiet more, because there's something that I've recognized that, okay, my mind's working on something, or I'm feeling something that I'm trying to just push off.
Right.
So I'm gonna stimulate myself, external stimulation,
Push it
and
out.
just distract, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
Johnny Depp trial has been fantastic for the last few weeks. I don't normally get into anything celebrity or news. I really stay away from it, but it's almost been timed very well with certain challenges I've been facing. So it's kind of been that push and pull of like, okay, we can shut it off, focus. And I've had some wonderful
Yeah.
breakthroughs. And then, okay, you need the kind of decompressing time. Let's put on something mindless and useless. But yeah, no, it's really, it must have been such an incredible transformation for yourself. I mean, how did people around you see what you were going through, and see what you've come out doing? Or
Well, the
did
really
they feel like that kind of was always in your destiny?
you mean to become a life coach, or?
Mhm.
Yes. So when I came out and I, announced that I'm now a life coach, I'm a certified life coach. So many people just came to me and said, Randy, it's your fit. You're going to be perfect. You're going to be amazing. You're going to be, so there's a lot of positive, coming in from the internal, my internal circle. But even to go like the transformation from Thailand. So just to give you an idea, my son, he took the plane alone at 17
Okay.
years old to come meet me in Thailand,
Wow.
because he noticed the transformation, because even though you're not a lot of electronics, but when I would move from different places, then that's when I would connect, but just to the conversations I was having with him on FaceTime, he already saw the transformation. And he said, Dad, I want to come, and I want to do what you did.
Wow. And so
So
he joined you.
he joined and he did 10 days. So it was quite a, yes.
That's a lot for
It
someone
was,
so young. I mean, that's
oh
quite a lot for someone so
yeah.
young.
Well, yeah, it was really tough for him. And, even though you're not allowed to talk, I had to speak to him sometimes, just the encouragement. But yeah, it was amazing. But it's just the testament, my son is like, he's my best bud, if there's anybody in the world, and my daughter, of course. But anyway, so he came down to see me, and that was a really big testament in terms of he saw the change, So I was like, wow, because when you change, like you feel it, but it's very gradual. So but now years later, people that I cross, they're like, many people don't even recognize me.
Wow.
Like I could say, hey, how you doing? And these are people I've talked to for like 5, 6, 7 years, like in the school or whatever.
Right.
They're like, who are you?
Wow. Wow.
Well, of
Well,
course, I
but
have a beard and longer hair, but still, it's I guess it's the energy. I have no idea.
well, it's also, as much as our own like faces generally stay the same, more or less, just the expression and the inner state, I find can do wonders to change how you look,
Of course, the
and
nonverbal is huge. Yeah.
yeah. And people pick up on it more than we realize. I remember after my divorce, there would be people who would walk up to me, and they were very brief acquaintances, like even like the receptionist at the hairdresser, she would come, I see you looking so much happier. I'm so happy for you. And I'd be like, I didn't tell you what was going on before or now. She's like, I can just see it on your face. I can already know what happened, basically, that, you're in just a better place in your life. So
Radiating.
people who we don't even think we're impacting, or who take, we don't think are picking up on anything, they really do intensely. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
Yeah. So tell me how, when you hear business life coach, I don't know if that's how you want to refer to what you do, or do you work with other people in issues other than outside of business?
Yes, of course. I have clients, from 17-year-old to, to 65-year-old gentleman who's retired. But my primary focus really is the entrepreneur, and it's not really business life coaching, because we do sometimes discuss business, but because the entrepreneur mindset is very different than, someone that's been working in the workforce for 30 years,
Yes.
or, they have like, a police job or a nurse job, or, a very governmental job or something like that. It's a very different mindset, right?
Yes.
Even the employee from the policeman, the mindset is different. What's a fonctionnaire in French? Anyways.
I don't even, I know what it means, but I can't even
Public
translate.
service worker, but
Yes.
so there's all these different fields where the mindset is very different, and it's normal. But what I click to really is the entrepreneur, because within me, I'm an entrepreneur. I love the stories. I love the success stories. I love seeing what makes people tick. And that's a big question that I ask almost in all my discovery calls, especially with entrepreneurs, is what makes you tick? What's your purpose? What gets you out of bed? And I would say 99% of them, actually, I would say 100% of them, all of them, they don't know, they can't answer that question. So that's where I feel that I had a lot of value, is that I'm reaching people that were in a similar state as me, where they had everything, but felt unfulfilled, still felt like I don't have enough yet. And it's a common recurring theme. Like, I don't know if I should bring up his name, but Will Smith, I read his book over the holidays, and, in his journey for many, many years, decades, he was unhappy. He was the biggest rap star, the biggest movie star, completely unhappy and completely lost within himself, where he had to get out of this environment that he was in. And he went to a retreat style, like Thailand, but it was in the Caribbean somewhere. And he had to stay alone and just be alone with his thoughts and figure this out for himself. So, I don't think anybody's immune to this feeling. As we hear from when we're born, money doesn't buy happiness. You have to live with purpose. And I think, Jay Shetty started with his podcast on purpose. Tony Robbins, which is another big name, he's like, it's all about purpose. So it's super important.
Oh, it really is. And it's so interesting. It's not what we're taught growing up, right? Like, I think we're brought up with get your good job, and fill in the structure of what today's life is supposed to do. And that will bring you happiness and contentment and all that. And, kind of in the practical way of speaking, okay, right? You do need to find a way to support yourself, and family is very important, and all of those things. And hopefully through those avenues, you will find your purpose. For some people, it's their family. For some people, it's their job. But the element of purpose isn't brought into the discussion. But that's
Right.
like, I think that's what's missing. It's just not brought into the discussion when we're kind of projected and told as children about what we're supposed to look forward to in life, right?
100%. I mean, I found it in an elementary private school. So I know from the ground level of what's going on. Of course, it's private. We'd like to think that, we offer something better than what the public system offers, and that's why people pay the price. I'm no longer in this school, so there's no, but
it's so amazing that you founded a school,
level,
because people don't even do that these days, right? I mean, the schools that are there are kind of the schools that are there. So that's incredible in itself. It's so innovative.
Right. Yeah, it was a long journey. It was a 3-year journey just to get the doors open. But getting back to the education of it, it's absolutely true. We teach our kids mistakes. Don't make mistakes.
Right.
I think that's where, by making a lot of mistakes, that's when you find yourself and you learn the right things. But we're taught, even, we grew up in the same very similar schooling system. you have to find out what you want to do. You have all these tests that you have to do, and the failure rate, and if you don't do good, you're in trouble. If you don't act right, you're in trouble. Which all it does is, for a large portion of the kids, is we're hammering on their heads.
Yep. I agree.
If we use the Pareto principle, you have 20% of the kids that are, they're A+ students, or they're very good students. They never act up. But then you have 80% that are like in the circle of, and then all the forms start coming. Okay, well, you have to go see a psychologist. You have to get, an evaluation. There's something wrong with your kid. There's something wrong with your kid. Okay. And sure, the evaluations do help because you get tools, but still at the end of the day, we're living in a society of just performance, and we get that performance. How many stars or actors do you know that have killed themselves?
Oh, so much. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Because there's no
they've made it.
Yeah. And then it's empty.
Robin Williams, Anthony Bourdain, just those are two huge names. What was the lead singer of the band? Anyways, doesn't matter. But so at the end of the day, it's very important we should be teaching this to kids. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, there was two. The one is, I just saw an interesting little clip of Jim Carrey very recently, and he said, they were asking him, he said, I'm retiring, and they asked him why, and he said, I don't think you're going to hear from many people in my industry. He's like, I just feel like I have enough. He's like, I want to fill my days with the things I want to do. It's like, I like to paint, I like to go for walks. He's like, and I have enough. So I don't feel the need to push him. So, but he's such a unique voice in that industry that would even say that out loud, and
absolutely.
While you're speaking about the kids and the 20%, it's so interesting. I see it in my own children, and maybe you see it in yours. So my oldest daughter is oldest kind of stereotype, right? She's very driven, especially since she started high school. She loves her high school. So she's very driven to succeed, and her marks and everything. And she's already knows what she wants to do in her life. And that's wonderful. And I support her, that's great. And she came home today, she's in grade 8, and said that they had a session. A certain teacher came in to talk to them about deciding what they're going to do with their lives, like now. I'm like, but you're 14. Like, it's great for us to talk about it at home. And I'm, glad you have this interest, but you're in school. You don't need to. And I had to kind of disabuse her of that notion where she was like, because mommy, then I'm going to have to take this class and I have to do this. No, it's okay. You just relax, you're not locking your life in forever, which is also a paradigm that's changed over these years, right? Because we've grown up with parents who, like, that's what they did for like 50 years, or most families, right? Like that kind of, I'm one thing and I've done it all my life. And over the last 2 decades, I think we've seen more where, like, it's okay to change your career completely, as you've done, as I've done.
Us Gen X are switching everything up.
Yeah, that's right. We're throwing everything in the air and being like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. But it's so much more in line with acknowledging the evolution of a person, right? Because then I see my younger daughter, and we did the testing, ADD, and she's a very different learner. Bless her, the school system is not for her, right? That's my purpose, and I've been very straight with her, is I'm just going to get you through high school, like finish elementary, we're going to get you through high school, like technically, and the rest is up to you. And if you don't pass these exams, that's totally okay with me, because I see she's so bright, she just doesn't fit this structure. So instead of breaking her, right, and making her feel horrible, which she's already gone through these first few years, till I understood what she was really about, right? Of like, she doesn't, her self-esteem has been impacted by it, her confidence, by feeling like she doesn't measure up to the other kids. But now we're doing the repair because I understand her for who she is and what she needs, So like you said, we don't bring in purpose into the kids. We just try to fit them into this mold, and it works for some, but really not all.
Right. No, absolutely. I think there has to be a huge overhaul, in my personal opinion, on the education system. In 10 years ago, actually, I visited Finland with the grade 6 class. We went to Finland for a week. Yeah. So it was the first time we did it as a school trip. I was in event planning, so something else I did. And so I was very good at it, and I had it. So we did it like as a parent student trip. So most of the parents came with us. We went to Finland and we visited the school system there. It
I've
is
heard.
night and day. They zero homework. They
Wow.
go to school 4 or 5 hours a day maximum. And their theory is let the kids let them learn like in a concentrated, and then when they go home, that's when everything starts working. And it's
Yes.
true, you know, you read a book or you read something, yeah, you're getting the information in, but it's after when you start thinking about it that the real learning starts and you start, you know, processing the information.
Absolutely.
So I found that really interesting.
Well, so it's funny that everything is timing. So I was just listening to a podcast this morning. Jay Shetty's On Purpose podcast, actually, because he had on Andrew Huberman, who I'm a big fan of as well. And they were actually just talking, Andrew Huberman was talking about how learning actually happens when you're resting and sleeping. You take in the information. And so it's actually better to keep your learning intervals to maximum 90 minutes less
Right.
if possible, and then you need the time to literally sleep on it, right? Or at least rest, meditate, and allow your brain to create all the connections and then come back to it, and you'll find you actually have retained it much better than if you're, you know, cramming and really overwhelming your schedule with learning. So the Finnish model sounds pretty on target, right? And it's allowing kids to be kids.
And they have the best school, like in terms of testing rates, and they're by far, like they're the best school system in the world by far. Like there's no one's even close, and they don't go to school. Like, well,
And they're hardly in school.
They're hardly in school. You know, no homework. They're, you know, it's a very, and this goes all the way through. And they learn at the end of high school, they're already speaking 3 languages fluently.
Wow.
Finnish, Swedish, which are the 2 principal languages. And then they have a choice of English, German, whatever, any of the other
whatever
European.
the third is. That's incredible. That's really something. So, I mean, it just goes to show that, you know, I think there's so many structures that have been around for a long time that did bring our, you know, our society and our civilization very far. But I think people are evolving into
everything changes, you know, and that's one of the major principles of Buddhism is everything is impermanent. You know, as humans, we don't like change so much.
That's right.
So when things change, there's a lot of resistance, and, you know, it can be angry, it can be a lot of negative emotions. So when it comes to the schooling system, the languages, there's a lot of history in there. And there's a lot of, you know, lack of a better word, but there's people that are in the education government that, you know, maybe have been there for 30, 40, 50 years, and
this is the way we do things, right?
This is the way we do things. Why change it? And everything is fine, but, you know.
Well, but it's kind of like anything for people, right? We'll stay in very negative situations or relationships, even though, you know, change might bring us better things. This is all you know, the familiar is what we stick with, even if it's not good for us. Right. Exactly. And that's the biggest challenge, is to be able to move past that anxiety of stepping into the change space. Right. And you know, getting past that, and then realizing like, oh, okay, this actually might be a little bit better for me. Right. But so many people have struggled. Really, that's, I think, one of the biggest struggles for most people.
It's very uncomfortable. Changes, you know, there's no doubt about it. I was with Tony Robbins in the beginning of the year, and he said it well, where he equated, you know, a room and a temperature of a room in Celsius is 21.5. That's the comfort zone. So we're always in our comfort zone. And whenever we would try to change and become, you know, grow, we get, you know, the heat starts rising, you know, we go to 22, oh, it's okay, 23, 20, then it starts getting really hot, and we're uncomfortable. We're like, right away, we want to go back to the comfort zone because we're comfortable.
That's right.
And it can be the opposite too, where it gets colder, you know, we get depressed, we get down, we're not doing much, and then we get uncomfortable. We say, okay, no, I got to get my life in order, and then we come back up to where that comfort level is. And you can see it with weight loss also. If you have, you know, people that have lost a lot of weight, it comes back on because it seems like, I don't know how accurate this theory is, but people have told me is that we all have like a framework of weight that that's our natural weight. So whatever that is, and even if we lose weight, you can take it off, but you'll always come back into that buffer zone.
Yeah, that's my experience. My body's happy at a certain weight that I don't want it to be at, right? But then that pushes us in, you know, I try to look at everything as an emotional exercise, right? So even if that's
Mhm.
the case, and even if I'm not where my body wants me to be, but I don't want to be, right? Say in the weight, I have to learn to be okay. I can still continue to work on making those changes and being healthy and exercising, but I also have to find a way to appreciate myself as I am, right? To take that inner critic out of the inner conversation every time I pass by a mirror, right?
Right.
And to love me as I am with an eye to the improvements I want to make, right? It's you can hold
Mhm.
both things in your mind at the same time. And I think that that's so important because sometimes when we want to change, we're so busy beating ourselves up for where we are,
Right.
right? And that can almost sabotage any work you want to do to move yourself into a different place, and not even only in weight loss, and kind of any changes.
Any change. Yeah, I use weight loss as a reference. And like I said, I'm
Yeah.
not sure the accuracy of what I said about the weight, but um, it's that comfort zone, you
Yeah.
know, and we're all guilty. I mean, it happens to the best of us. We want to put a really good book that I've, you know, I know we're going to get into the books after, but it's Atomic Habits,
Oh,
which
I've
came
heard
out.
of that one. Yeah.
Yeah, by James Clear. Amazing,
I'm gonna write that
amazing
one
book.
down.
In the beginning of the book, he talks about the British racing team, which they were horrible. Cycling racing.
Okay.
They were horrible for decades. They couldn't even they couldn't even show up to competitions because they were so bad, pretty much. But then they hired this coach, and this coach said, "What we're going to do is we're going to change something by 1% every
Mhm.
single day." So they just did little changes. First, they start off with the bike, raise the seat a little bit, to, you know, whatever, the more aerodynamic, the wheel, they changed the structure. Then the training changed a little bit, 1% every day. But because of my finance background, I know the power of compounding. So if you take 1%, the next day, 1% of that 1% is 2 point something, 2.1%, whatever that is. And then you add it on every single day for the full year. Well, that British racing team, they ended up being world champions at the Olympics. They won medals. They went to the Tour de France. They won. Yeah, and it's just but it's about the atomic habits of, and that's what gets us, I feel, is the best sound way to get us through that discomfort, because you're only changing that 1%.
Right.
So a lot of times with my clients, you know, and I never give advice to my clients, as you know, and it's all about open-ended questions. And you know, and I'll ask them that you know, let's say they want to read 1 hour every day. They want to start reading. So I say, okay, how many hours can you read in a day? How many hours would that look like? Oh, 1 hour a day. Okay. Every day? Yeah, I'd love to read every day. Okay. How many times can you do it this week? Oh, 7 days. I go, wait a second. You're setting yourself up for failure.
Yes.
If you give 7 days and you miss once, twice,
You're done.
then you're going to probably give up. Because you're going to say, I can't do this. Give yourself a goal that's very easy and you know 100% you can do it. Okay, I can do it twice. Okay. And that's how we build.
That's right.
And you know, it's true. And the comfort, and that's so it keeps us, even though the comfort, it lowers down the discomfort when we're getting out of the comfort zone.
Right. Oh, well, I mean, and that's the only way you can make lasting change, right? Like you said, if it's too drastic of a change, either you give up and then you failed, right? Or it's like such a shock to you that it's nothing that you can maintain, and then you decide it's nothing you wanted to do either, right? But it's
Exactly.
those small incremental. It's almost like the analogy of the frog in the soup, right? If you increase the heat very, very slowly, it won't realize it's being boiled, although it's a bit of a negative one. But but if you increase the heat right away, it jumps right out of the pot, right? So
Right.
it's that we're the same. If we change things incrementally, and so is that the kind of thing that you do with your clients in terms of if they want to improve their business?
Yes, of course. You know, it all depends what comes to the table, but you know, when it comes to in business terms, you know, it can be from a leadership perspective, how to, you know, how to talk to my employees, to you know, raising money, to you know, managing, you know, I have a female entrepreneur. She's a mother of 3 kids, and she's, you know, you're a mother as well. You know, like all the responsibilities that come with it, even though, you know, she doesn't have that much support from her husband. So and to manage all that, you know. So that's where we bring these 1%, and it's very, it's very important because you look at the schedule, it's full. It's like my kids have this, I have this, and I got to go to work. I run a business, my husband, this. So it's 100% full. So that's why the 1%, even 0.5% change, like what one little change can you do that will improve your life, but you can continue to do. So we do that. And the other thing also is to check the mindset. And I dive into that because oftentimes when we get that feeling of, we all know it, where we want to procrastinate. It's that I'll do it tomorrow. It's that inside of us, and it's so uncomfortable. And normally we listen to that, we just push it off.
Right.
But I try to coach my clients also to watch out for that mindset and change your state. Tony Robbins also talks about that, about changing your state. So, I don't feel like this at all, and then bang, I'm ready to do it. Let's go.
Right. You're almost triggering your nervous system to flip a switch and get excited.
Exactly. Mel Robbins, I don't think she's related to Tony, but Mel Robbins also has I think it's the 4-second rule or the 5-second rule.
Yes.
And I think she has a book on that as well.
Yeah. I read that book.
1, 2, 3, 4,
just
5, go.
Yeah, that's really great for the procrastinators. Definitely. What I found too is I make lists. They help me. I have a big issue with focus. So it's very important for me to maintain a list of things I need to do every day. And I keep the priorities at the top and the things that can wait at the bottom. And it's always on rotation, this list, right? Some things carry over the next day. Some things I get done, but I always try to make myself do one thing that I really don't want to do. Like the one thing that I really didn't want to do this. This is the one thing I'm doing today. And it's kind of like, then you can do anything else, right? And then do all the fun stuff or the things I really enjoy. But it's that a bit of like the reward system of, getting yourself to do something and then, not overwhelming yourself with the discomfort of it, but just enough to kind of get it accomplished.
Yes, it's a very powerful practice. Congratulations on doing that. Because because it's true. It typically we'll do the last thing, the thing that we really don't want to do, we'll do it last.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't get done.
And then it does. Well, that's what I was going to say. I used to do that because I would at least put it on the list, right? but then it just wouldn't get done because it would kind of always get pushed down. So I realized that I have to just do it, get it done, and get it out of my way. Yeah, there are so many different techniques to get people motivated, right? And so it's so interesting that you use the space of mindfulness, like the personal and spiritual growth world, I guess, of coaching and healing in relation to entrepreneurship. So how do you connect the two when it comes to working with someone in their business? Because that's unique, right? Like, sorry to interrupt, but I just mean that like the instinctive thought about hearing you work with that is it sounds like it, or it feels like it would be much more like just a very structured business plan, strategies, the like mission statement kind of world of strategic planning, right? But it sounds like, so explain to us how you work with your clients differently.
Right. So of course there's the whole business planning, and I've done a lot of that in my prior life before being a certified life coach. But the way that I approach it's kind of unique. And I was actually had an interview for a magazine. They asked me this very similar question, where what they asked is how do you reconcile the two? Because you have this Buddhist philosophy of non-attachment, don't attach to anything. But then you have this business side where it's like, well, I want, which is the desire. I want. So the way that I reconcile the two is we will always want. We were made to grow. It's in our DNA. There's nothing we can do about it. If you open the window outside, just, I say that because I live on 26th floor. I see the whole city of Montreal. Wow. But when I look at this, and I'm still in amazement every single day. I look at it and I'm in amazement that the humanity has come from like a hut,
right?
I don't know, maybe 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
To this, and even more. Now we're going, to Mars, and we're going all over the place. So the human nature needs to grow, and that will always, Elon Musk now is like, okay, we're going to Mars. We're going to put people on Mars. So we have this growth. However, the mindset is really to have the non-attachment to the growth, meaning things change.
Mm.
It may not go exactly as you planned. It probably won't go as fast as you planned, and be okay with it and just enjoy the journey. And I think that's where the enlightenment comes, because a lot of these business owners, like I said, are they're already successful. Not that they don't need business planning, not that they don't need business advice, and we do talk about it in an open way, but it's really focusing on the person, the internal, the mindset, and how can they bring their best self to their business, to their family, and to all their relationships around. Because at the end of the day, if you're having troubles at home,
Yep.
and you're going to your business, there may be some suffering there. Maybe, I have no idea.
So it carries over the energetically, right? I mean, the way people pick up on,
or vice versa.
in
You
your
have a
approach.
horrible day, that your business is suffering. There's something wrong in the business. You can't pinpoint it. You go home, you're stressed about money, you're having dinner. So it's not a good environment. So, but to be okay with that and say, hey, if I don't have money, I have to bust my ass. Excuse me, I don't know if I can say that word, but I have to bust my chops here.
Yeah.
To make the money, but find out what needs to be done. Or I can sit here and suffer and just say, oh, I don't know what to do. This is horrible, and just be mad at the whole world. That's where the mindset comes in. So that's how I reconcile the two together, and really to bring, once you're your best self in anything you do and in all spheres, it's just going to be golden. And I'm a true testament. Like, my life really is like, I'm happy every single day. Like, it's really hard to say, but I do, but it's been work. I meditate every single day, 2 times a day. I journal. But I really, now, when a negative feeling or emotion comes in, because I know that it's the thought that creates the emotion. So I go right away to the thought. What am I thinking? Why do I have this stress? What am I thinking? Oh, I'm thinking about an old story, or I'm creating this story about some conflict I may have or something. And I say, that's not true. Go back and then focus on the beautiful day, birds or whatever, come back to the present moment. So, but it's a practice, it takes time. But at the end of the day, that's my goal with my clients, is when they walk into every day of the business. I mean, of course you're gonna have bad days, but is to like really just come in and just say, hey, what's up, everybody? It's all good.
Well, and it's that non-attachment, and it's those tools that you are embodying and teaching your clients that allow, the ebbs and flows of life, of things that are maybe out of our control, or allows us to move through them a lot more easily, right? Like you said, like now how to process that emotion and unpack it so that you understand where it's coming from and you don't get consumed by it. I've had the same experience myself. And so now I know, oh yeah, okay, I know what this story is, right? Like and we have the tools to move ourselves through it so that it doesn't take us over, right? There's no,
right.
I don't know that we're ever kind of going to reach a point where nothing ever bothers us. I think, and that's just how I think it's really just more about how we move through them, how we process it, how we extract ourselves from that old pattern or that old mindset. And it's that, you're either, it's so great that you said that about, you're either reliving an old story or you're projecting a conflict in the future, because that's where so much of our own suffering comes from, right? We're either living in the past and reliving unhappy things, or we're projecting how something can go wrong. And what I've learned is that has been it's very tied to stimulating the stress hormones in our body, right? Like our bodies have gotten so used to thriving on cortisol and adrenaline and all of that, we are almost, we're provoking ourselves to have the physical reaction so that our brains can get those chemical dumps, basically. Right. And that helped me so much to understand that as well, because I lived so long in past and future. And I've learned to recognize that, like, oh, you're projecting that this is going to be a problem, right? Because now you've got your body flooding with this adrenaline, and now you're stressed because your body needed it. So you don't really need to take your mind there at all. So however you can approach, and there's so many different ways it works differently for everybody in terms of how to approach it and the self-talk that you do to get yourself through it. But it really comes down to the same originating process for each of us, right? Like the same triggers and.
Right. Absolutely. And, and you nailed you hit the nail on the head. when you said that the emotional component of all this is rooted in, I would almost say, an addiction.
Oh, definitely.
I don't want to say that word because
Right.
but because if you look at the negative emotion that like, whether it's tears, whether it's anger, it's very strong, super, super strong. Like it's like you're tense up. But when you're super happy, not excited, like there's excited, like I'm going on the run, but just happy, it's very calming.
Yes. Oh,
So the body is like, but this thing is so like energy, like there's so much energy, like even though it's negative energy, but it's so energetic. It's like, so our mind seems that it's always continuously looking for those to get those, like you said, the boosts of,
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I learned about it really when I read the book by Dr. Joe Dispenza of How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One, something like that, where he really talks about, he's very spiritual also. He talks a lot about energy, but he also talks about quantum physics. He talks about the brain's chemical makeup and the wiring of it. And it just, that was really the clincher for me the first time that I recognized, like, oh my God, I am sending my body into intensive stress constantly to maintain these hormonal levels, these stress hormones, just for the brain fix. I'm torturing myself by doing that, right? And so once I realized that, that started me on the path of understanding, like, no, this is also bad for me, right? So, it does, because it does end up also having real physical effects over time, right? So high cortisol and adrenaline levels, there's adrenal fatigue, it can induce an inflammation in the body and diabetes.
Oh my gosh.
Like, right?
Cancer.
So
yes,
it can't, absolutely can't. So that's the thing, it's our mind and body connection. They need to be in harmony and in a positive, we need to align our body positively on the physical, biological level, as well as the spiritual level. Right. So yeah, that's so interesting. And I can't believe we're pretty much almost at the end of our time. It's been so great to talk to you, and so great to hear about all the wonderful work you do, and the beautiful work, the great things that you bring to your clients, because
well, thank
I
you.
really
Thank
love
you for
the
this
approach.
opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, it's a real pleasure. I hope we get to do it again. Maybe in a few months, we'll revisit some topics that we didn't get to talk about.
I'd love to. It was a great conversation. It feels like we could have another hour.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely. There's so much to talk about in this area, and you bring such a great element to it. So I'm going to ask you, I've told you that I've started a book list from all of my guests on a site called bookshop.org that supports independent booksellers. So I'm going to ask you if you'd like to share the book that you would recommend to the audience to take a look at, something that impacted you.
Absolutely. So the book that I have, it's called Under the Bodhi Tree, and it's written by Buddhadasa Bhikkhu. And Buddhadasa Bhikkhu is a monk. He's deceased now, but he's one of the monks that started a Dhamma center for international people in Thailand, an English place where people could learn, be in silence, practice meditation. So he built this amazing complex of like in the forest, but he was like a hermit for 20 years. Oh, wow. Writing books. He's got, like in Thailand, there's a library just dedicated to his books. Wow. Anyways, he's really revered over there. So why do I like this book in particular is because obviously I learned a lot from that, from my trip over there. But what he does is he really dives into the original texts of Buddha, what was written, and gets rid of all the religious stuff, gets rid of all the, he cleanses it out. So it's just these words that can be applied to, any religion. It's not even religious anymore. It's really all about what he calls codependent arising, which is just attachment. It's another word for attachment, and how we attach as soon as we see something. There's an attachment. Yes. And then we decide right away: do we like it? Do we like it? Is it dangerous? Is it safe? Is it this? Is it that? A lot of times the judgments are wrong, but then we form our biases around that. So these attachments, whether they're real or not, we just do it. So that's what I find is really interesting. And then he talks about how to get through it through meditation, et cetera, et cetera. So it's an excellent book. Highly recommended. That's amazing. Did you get to go to his center? I did. I spent that's one of the places my son came. I went there twice. So this place, it's a 10-day retreat. I started there because they teach you really how to meditate before I started actually going with the
Mhm.
monks, because the monks, they're not there to teach, they're teaching themselves, right?
Right.
So yeah, so I'd spent 10 days there, then I traveled around, went to other temples, and then my son came and we went back there because it's a really good place to start.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that book. That's incredible. So I'd like to ask you to share as well with the audience where people can find you if they'd like to reach out to you for coaching.
Sure. So my website, randybelham.com. And from there you can get my Facebook, everything is on there. So
And under Facebook and Instagram, same thing under your
Randy
name.
Belham.
Right.
Randy Belham,
Okay,
yep.
great. And all those links will be in the show
It-
notes. Yeah. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, it's fine. It's fine. I was just gonna say something, but it's good.
All right. Okay. Very good. Well, I thank you so much for this conversation. This has been wonderful. I've really enjoyed myself. I've learned a lot. It's been, I'm sure our audience has as well. This has been fantastic. So thank you so much
Great.
for being here with me today.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. Hope you have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you.